Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Kerry Thompson. How are we doing?
Hey man, I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. Um, I've mentioned this to you on the lobby, but you are someone that got mentioned quite a lot in the podcast so far. So I thought I'd reach out, get you in, and talk some strength and conditioning.
Hey man,
Um,
glad to
sorry,
be here,
yeah.
man. Glad to be here.
Um, Before we get going, if you could give us a little introduction on how you started S&C and how you got into your role.
I started strength and conditioning in 2014. I started volunteering with John Cook, Zach Woodfin, and Jason Finley at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. That was in 2014. In 2014, towards the back end of the season, UAB canceled their football program. So that was, well publicized around the country. I think it even made international headlines because of, how it went down. So then I started interning in 2015 at Samford University, which is a private university in Homewood, Alabama. And I wasn't able to stay there for too long because I had to get back into sales and providing for my family. And so in 2016, University of Alabama Birmingham announced that they were going to bring the football program back. I went and interned with Lyle Henley at the University of Alabama Birmingham in 2016 and 2017. I went to the University of Alabama in 2018 and interned under Scott Cochran and Terry Jones there. Got my first full-time opportunity at Allen University, which is a small university in Columbia, South Carolina, historically black college and university there. I was able to stay there for almost 2 years. Got an opportunity at Grambling State University. I was there for 2 years, and then my staff got let go. So I got the opportunity to work with fan control football in 2022, which was probably one of the coolest experiences I had as a strength and conditioning coach. I worked maybe 3-4 months out of the year, and then the other time I got to spend, with my family, which was extremely cool. From there, I got with fan control football. They ended up, canceling the league. I went to Clark Atlanta University. I was there for about 4 months. I got the opportunity to go to Alabama State University from Clark Atlanta in August of 23. I was there until May of 25 this year. And then I got an opportunity with the University of Southern California. So now I'm in Los Angeles with the USC Trojans, and it's been quite a journey. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Nice. And what gets you fired up right now?
Ask me that one more time.
What gets you fired up in this industry right now?
I just enjoy, like, right now, like, I'm over speed with the program. So talking speed development's really fun. I enjoy talking programming in the weight room. I also enjoy relationships with athletes. That's a really big thing for me as well. I work to build those while also building bodies. So the mental side of the game as well as the physical side is what really gets me going in regards to strength and conditioning.
Nice. And obviously, you mentioned that you were at Alabama with Scott. How was that?
Man, working with Coach Cochran is pretty cool, man. He has a lot of energy. And working with Coach Jones there, Terry Jones is there for 30 plus years at the University of Alabama in various capacities as either head strength coach or an assistant strength coach. And so I learned a lot under those two men, and really refined coaching and taught me that coaching is not just the X's and O's or the strength and conditioning side of it, not just sets and reps, but it's also being able to hold everyone to the same standard, regardless if they were a 5-star athlete or a walk-on athlete. Like, it's been a big part of why I treat everyone, the same with as far as the standard goes.
Yeah. And what were you like through all the sort of place you've been and sort of roles you've had? What were some of the biggest takeaways from each?
Oh man, what I learned from Lyle at UAB was that you have to make sure you always stay up to date with the science. You always have to make sure that you're bringing your A game day in and day out. What I learned at the University of Alabama again is like being able to coach 5-star athletes as well as walk-ons and have them, the same way. This was when Alabama was rolling. When Jalen Hurts was there, Tua was there, Smitty was there. Like, they had some guys in that building: Isaiah Buzz, Raekwon Davis, Quinn Williams. So they had some guys in there, but they were all held accountable and held to that standard. At Allen University, I learned how to use my ingenuity to program. And you don't have all the resources, but you still got to get the results. So it's working away and finding a way around that. At Grambling State, I learned how to work within the confines of the system. Also, like working at a blue blood HBCU program, the expectations are high, so winning is expected. It also taught me, how to deal with, being fired.
Mm,
As a strength coach when the staff is let go. So that's what I definitely learned there. Big slice of humble pie. Also, with fan control football, like I really learned like how to deal with high level athletes. Um, like working with Terrence Williams and Terrell Owens was there and Johnny Manziel was there, and like we have all these former pro guys that are there as well as our other guys that came in. Like it was really cool to learn how to navigate those relationships with high profile athletes. We'll say that. Um, and also, again, being creative. Our weight room was in a ballroom, and so making sure we had everything we needed, but also making sure that we weren't wasteful at all there.
mm,
Clark Atlanta taught me how to just roll with the punches, especially with only being there for 4 months at a time. Like it doesn't matter how much time you spend there; it's your impact while you're there that's important. And just being able to create a culture there to help our guys understand the importance of day in and day out what the work looks like. Being at Alabama State, it taught me how to build relationships with the administrative side of things, like being able to help fundraise or help get money for certain devices that we need. We're able to get Perch there. We're able to get Connect Sun there, the FCS program, which is almost unheard of. And so now they're able to use those tools in order to help the athletes get better. And Coach Irvin McKenzie and Coach Keon Thorpe and Coach Courtney Portis, those are all my guys. They were my assistants there at Alabama State. They've now taken over, and they're doing an excellent job there. And now what I'm learning at USC is how to be a high-level assistant. I've only been an intern and a director. So now it's learning how to be an assistant and work with the team within the confines of the team, as well as learning how to make sure that every day, like you have it, like every
mm.
day, like making sure that everyone's held to that standard.
How do you think all the experiences that you've had so far has shaped and helped you adapt to that new environment of now being an assistant?
Um, it's given me the opportunity to do more with less, and now it helps me really appreciate doing more with actually having more.
Mm,
I've been able to like really kind of work around not having certain things, and it's helped me like be able to bring ideas or explain, hey, this is how I did this, or this is how I did that, in order to try to add value to the staff that I'm currently on. We have some really great coaches. Tremaine Carroll is the best strength coach I've been around. Like he's so detailed and organized and forward thinking. Coach Lonnie Maddox is a really good friend of mine. He's been a championship strength coach at the Division II level, at the FCS level. He's been at Kansas State, and I learn a lot from him daily, just as far as how to handle the responsibilities of being an assistant. Coach Cesar Martinez was at USC previously. He was retained from the last staff, and he's awesome. Great sense of urgency, works extremely hard, and he's very smart, very forward thinking as well. and working with Derek Baker here. Coach Baker has a ton of mobility knowledge, and I love that. He, is very organized. He does a great job at putting together numerous different facets of the program. And so working with those guys, like it helps me take my game to the next level because again, like I'm learning how to work within a team, but also from my view and my perch, being able to observe, take notes from all four of those amazing coaches and add things to my toolbox.
Yeah. And how does that sort of fit in with, obviously you've got speed, there's mobility, there's different pieces that goes into this performance pie. How how are you doing with the communication, and how is that sort of set up to make sure you are reaching that next level?
It's just making sure that we're communicating effectively. We're all in the same office. Um, and it makes it easy. Like, hey, look, this is, hey, this is what we need. This is our goal. And then I'm allowed to, bring the ideas and talk with the guys. Hey, this is what I plan on doing. And then also being able to teach the
Mhm.
drills to not only the athletes but to the staff so they understand, what our goal is within that particular time.
And obviously, you've got speed as part of your um, job role. What kind of considerations are you putting forward when you're programming and planning for the upcoming season?
Well, the biggest thing has just been to make sure that we're not overcomplicating things when it comes to speed development. A lot of the times, we overcomplicate things, and a lot of the times, the basics take care of everything.
Hmm.
Especially when it comes to American football, everyone's trying to do these fancy drills. Everyone's trying to, become Instagram famous, and that's not really the goal here. Like the goal is what athlete development, long term athlete development is under attack right now. You have to get your guys ready, and they have to be, ready to go. And especially in the era of the transfer portal, things are, you may not have that time to develop long term. So now we have to make sure that as strength coaches in the collegiate setting that we're programming our guys based on what they need, not on what we want them to have. And so, like a big goal of mine is like, of course, long term athletic development is what we strive for. But also just being able to analyze your athletes and be able to put together a program that's suitable for them, not just transferring programs over from other places just because it's what you've always done.
This is a quick shout out to our main sponsor on this channel, TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is all-in-one platform that hosts programs, questionnaires, testing, anything that you may need for your athlete's performance. You can host it in TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr also now has two different sites, which is OS and Practice. For more information on TeamBuildr, check out the link in the description. And if you use code PAChalkup all together, you will get a 30-day free trial. Our next sponsor is Apex Cool Labs. Apex Cool Labs is a palm cooling device that helps you gain further performance by cooling and aids the recovery so you can perform more for longer. To check out what Apex Cool Labs have, there's a link in the description. I think it's quite interesting that you're talking about long-term development because it's usually considered to be like from earlier years, so like elementary to high school, and then when you get into that collegiate, that's you now being a pro, and now you're on you're at the long term, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
With that shift, how are you identifying the long-term athletic development?
Well, when I speak of long term, I'm thinking of like the 4 years that we hope to have them in college.
Mm,
It's from their freshman year until their senior year. And if they get a red shirt year, which is an additional year, if you do the math on that, that's 5 years, 52 weeks. So it's what, like 262 weeks. Like, that sounds about right. What is it?
204.
Got 208, 208,
Yeah, 208. Yeah.
208. So you got 208 to 260 weeks to kind of turn yourself, if you get that extra year into a Division One profession, like go from Division One to professionals. to play in the NFL, or now they have multiple leagues that you can play in. But within them 260 weeks, like, we don't have time to play around in that time frame. Like, you waste a week or you waste a year, like, you can't wait until your senior year to take this stuff serious and think that within 52
Mm,
weeks you're going to be able to reverse all the bad habits and then come back and clean the other habits up in order for you to get to where you need to be to test at a high level for the NFL. Because, I think I saw the math in this at one point. Like, at one point, there are 1 million high school football players, and only like 300 of those guys get drafted. And you have to make sure that you're doing the things that the other guys aren't willing to do, like eat right, sleep, take your recovery serious in order for you to, put yourself in a position to be drafted. You can do everything right and still not get drafted. And so it's just creating those habits, creating a program that continues to build on strength, rate of force development, and, teaching speed at a high level and simplifying it for athletes to be able to buy in and understand why we're doing what we're doing.
yeah. So how does that development look like from freshman to senior?
Well, the first thing you have to do is especially within um, the programs that I've been over, like, we test those guys when they get there. We look at mobility, we look at speed, right? We look at running mechanics, we look at their strength levels. We look at, hey, we have those conversations with them, your why, to understand like what you're hoping to accomplish here. Like, what is your why? Why do you do this? And also just being able to push guys and make them uncomfortable and remind them of their why, when they start to get lazy or when they start to not want to, oh, I want to party, I want to hang out, I want to be this. Well, it's that habit conducive to the goal that you've set. And it's just reminding those guys of that. So it's starting with that and then reevaluating them after our training blocks in order to see, hey, did we get stronger here? Did we get better here? What's the overall change in the team? Like, hey, how do we continue to develop this program but not keep it stale? We're going to bench, we're going to squat. Like, those things are you don't clean. Like, those things are, set in stone. But also, being in the age of the portal and the transfer, you never know, man. Like, you may not have time to teach the power clean to get triple extension. You may have to, we go trap bar jumps in order to get the triple extension that you need at the level that you need it in order for it to translate to the field. And so, you just have to take your time and program the right way, continuously analyze, and continue to figure out how you can do things better in order to get the results that you need.
What does an off-season block look like for you and your athletes?
Well, being like, as a director, what we did was, we, like I said, we did our testing, and from there, like, I like to go a 4-day split, where you
Mm.
have upper lower, you have recovery day in the middle of the week, and then we go upper lower again, and then for they have the weekend to recover. So that means that Friday is going to be a really big lower body day. We're going to push the envelope and kind of give you what you need in order to get stronger. Depending on the goal of the program, of course, we'll have our first block, which will be a GPP block. We'll get our adaptation. We're looking to add some volume and some muscle to our guys, of course. But also, it's being able to kind of taper that off to see, hey, well, this guy may need to get stronger. He may not need to gain any more muscle. So now we need to be focused on, keeping them between 70 and 85% of their max, based on what year they're in the program as well. So a lot of different factors that you take into account when you're doing this programming in order to just make sure that you're doing things at a high enough level. So our first year guys, like, I'm really big when I read the periodization of training for team sports by Bumpa and Buzzicelli. That has been really big in my programming philosophy. Just simply, understanding max strength 1, which is 70 to 80%, then understanding max strength 2, which is 80% and above, You don't want to tax your first year guys too much with 85, 80, 85, 90%. They don't need to touch that. Like that whole first year, they need to stay within the 70 to 80% range. And we keep them in that range. And I've seen some pretty tremendous results from doing that. And everywhere I've been, like that's one thing that I will take, with me as a director is that 5x5 at 70% to 75%, like it puts guys in the torture rack, man. Like they're like, man, like coach, like what are we doing, right? And they're like 5x5 on the squat, or 5x5 front squat, or 5x5 on the bench press, or 5x5 on the incline. Like whatever our goal is building that strength. We're gonna get that. We'll get a little size with it too, just based upon volume.
Yep.
But also at the same time, like we are pushing you, and giving you that little buffer zone to where you still had a rep or two in the tank, and then being able to make those adjustments. That's when I worked, strictly off percentage. Now, even before I left Alabama State, we were going to be using velocity-based training, and that even correlating with those days that we can get more out of them. So those days that you got a good night of sleep and you're able to push past the preset, weight that we have in, hell, that day, your max, your 70% may be 225, but that day you're feeling strong. So we're going to take full advantage of it by using that velocity-based training to help us get the most that day. But then also the days that they're fatigued and they're 70% is moving like 80, then we can make those adjustments by regulating it with the velocity-based training, to get the most out of them that day. So again, it's just having access to more resources gives you, a better opportunity to train your guys at a higher level.
100%. You also mentioned something interesting, and I love talking about it, but it's exposing your athletes to the dark side where they are having to dig a little bit deeper. How is it that you implement that system? Obviously, you mentioned the 5x5s. Is there anything else that you do to experience to sort of shock them into that zone?
A lot of the times, man, it really starts with your energy at the beginning of the lift. It's telling those guys, hey, look, like this is what we need. Like you have to be able to, if we need a play. Like, it's coming
Mm,
into the weight room. If we need that play, the weights are that play. You can't hide in the weight room. The numbers are the numbers. So 225 pounds at USC weighs the same 225 pounds in high school, weighs the same 225 pounds at an FCS program. It's what you're going to do with those opportunities. And so going to that dark place, being able to dig, being able to have, great energy, great music going, great conversation with the guys, great relationships. Some guys you can call out in front of the team and say, man, like that wasn't good enough, right? But then other guys, you have to pull them to the side and challenge them. Hey, that wasn't good enough today. Like, what can you do in order to get to that next level? And and that comes in just knowing your guys. There's certain guys you can call out on a big scale. There's other guys that if you call them out on a big scale, they're gonna feel like you're challenging their manhood. So now, like I can pull those guys to the side and say the same thing to them in a much more intimate setting and get the same results. So it's just knowing what buttons to push. It's kind of
mm,
like honestly like an old school phone operator. They used to have to pull from here, put into there, and do this and that, right? You have to do that same thing as a strength coach. Any great strength coach out there is going to know how to get their guys going and press their buttons. And that just comes with taking the time to learn their names, taking the time to learn their mannerisms, taking the time to pay attention to little things that are going on with them and bringing it to their attention. It sounds cliche, but these guys don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that is just something that is holds true regardless of what logo has been on my chest.
You also touched about velocity based training. Apart from the measuring the percentages, are you using them in any other way, and what are you measuring within it?
Um, Really, we're looking at that bar speed. Velocity based training has kind of spoiled a lot of strength coaches.
Yep.
I feel that you can't get away from the coach's eye. The coach's eye, you got to be able to see. Like, I have a little saying, man, that that guy is over there shaking like a newborn horse. coming up out the hole, out that squat, man, you got to be able to see that and be able to make those adjustments. And that's pretty much has been what I've had to do my whole career. So being able to see it as well as being able to confirm it with the velocity based training units is a great thing to be able to do. Just looking at, like I said, we're looking at peak power. We're looking at, just overall, like if we're trying to get that volume in, or we're trying to get guys stronger. Like, man, like you said, that dark place, I can't worry if it's moving 0.36.
Mhm.
We got to make sure that it's moving. And as long as we're able to do that and get what we need from it, like I said, velocity based training is just like GPS units. It's a guide, it's a map, and it's like a key to the map, but you can't solely rely on it because some days the shit just has to be hard. And
Yeah.
that's just what it boils down to.
So I've been battling with this idea of writing a blog post about the coach's eye and how that art is being lost. Because like we do have force plates, we've got VBTs, we've got GPSs, we've got you name it. We have everything at this point. Um, but our ability to regress and really look actually that's a shoddy movement. Let me stop them and see what's going on, or the vice versa. That was a fucking amazing lift. Repeat that.
I think that you're spot on with it. A lot of the times, man, we get caught up in the technology, but man, the Russians were doing this at a high level without any technology. They were just literally like, if you look back at a lot of the like bumper posted, like that book, like I said, the third edition of that book. I don't really like the fourth edition, but the third edition of that book is like next level like programming because it just shows that a lot of the Olympians within that time frame stayed in that 70 to 80% range in order
Mm,
to, increase that rate of force development. And also like in tennis king, that's something that I've always said. And you can tell when someone's giving the effort and when they're woofing it.
yep.
And but you have to have the experience to see that. Like you can't only rely on velocity based metrics in order to be able to see that because you have to know some of these kids are really smart. And so
Hmm.
they'll intentionally try to make it look like it was this rep. And if you don't have that coach's eye, you're just gonna look at the numbers afterwards and be like, oh, he was in the right range, that was the right rep. But no, man, like you're woofing it today. Like your counter movement, shows this. Like I'm watching you, do this and do that at practice. So now you come in here and you think you're just gonna be able to slide under the radar. No, that's not what we're doing today. So
Mm,
the coach's eye is extremely important, man. I feel like it's probably, like you said, one of the things that is being lost in the field of strength and conditioning. And it's something that we can't get away from because what happens if you're an assistant and you go somewhere without velocity based training?
hmm.
Now you're basically swimming in the deep water with the great whites and you have no cage. And your coach's eye is that cage in order to prevent you from putting yourself in that situation to not be able to coach.
When I was at UW under coach Ron McKeefrey, 22 to 23, um, I was also with AJ Middleton, who said like something that was just like at the time it was mind blowing, but I was like, that's fucking true. And it's the fact that athletes are the best cheaters, and they will find every way possible to make it easier for themselves. So it doesn't matter if they're like the most um, switched on guy, they will find these avenues, these pathways to make it easier for them. But then it's like, how do we rein that in? And you also kind of nailed it when you're talking about like what happens if you move to a facility that you no longer have this. And I've been speaking about the teaching and coaching loop. So when you have everything, you know the language for said time, but like when you go to a facility that no longer has all that stuff, when you're coaching and teaching, like how can you do the same with less equipment that you were doing with the most equipment? Like how's your language transferring? How are you teaching the kids? How are you? making sure that they're getting the same. Obviously, it can't be the 100% same because you don't have the equipment, but you're still getting close to what they're needing without the equipment.
Well, I think that the first thing you have to do is just make sure that like you have accurate metrics on them. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't like there are so different many different ways that you can get to like skinning a rabbit, right? You can make sure you can get a 1 rep max, you can get a true 1 rep max, and I still believe in 1 rep maxing. A lot of people are getting away from it, but the 1 rep max to me, like I can estimate that you can squat 500 pounds, but there's something mentally that clicks for you when that 500 pounds goes on that bar because you have to go and you have to squat, you have to go down, you have to stand up, and with that weight on your back. And so, and it has to be the right depth, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to have your breathing on point. And those are all things that you can use in order to make sure they're at their proper 70%. And if when you have the coach's eye and that 70% that day is moving and they are throwing it that first set and that second set, hey, that third set, hey man, let's as Coach True likes to say, put a little cheese on it. Like let's add something to it, so we can get that 70%. And once you've seen 70% that bar move the way that 70% looks, like, okay, that might be a little, maybe I made too big of a jump on set 3. Let's reset down a little bit to set 4. Man, instead of going up 20 pounds, let's go up, let's take 10 pounds off and make a 10-pound jump. And then it goes back to moving the way that it normally is supposed to look. And then you're okay. So, like, you can't solely rely on that. You also have to be able to
Mm-hmm.
communicate with the athletes. Like, again, like I say all the time, intent is king. So, our goal is to move this bar as fast as humanly possible. And the research shows that even if the bar isn't moving fast, if I'm trying to move it fast, I'm still going to get the same results that I'm looking for, which is to be able to get a neural adaptation, to be able to, increase impulse and increase, rate of force development, because we're trying to shift that curve over to get it to the right, to where we want it to be to produce as much force as we can as quickly as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so being able to coach that up as well. And the last thing I'll say is like a lot of the times we really mess up in not coaching like how to breathe during these lifts. Like the breathing mechanics on the bench press, like, you take that big deep breath in, you come on down, you breathe it out coming up. Same way with the squat, you take that big deep breath and brace, you go down, you breathe it out coming up. And man, like, hell, if you get that breathing part down, hell, you might be able to add 20, 30 pounds to your max just simply because for breathing. And so it's just being able to relate those things to athletes, be able to, hey, this is our goal for today. That's something that I've learned. And being a director is like, hey, this is the goal. This is what we're trying to get accomplished today, and not try to, jargon them to sleep. Like
Yep.
these
Yep.
kids
Yep.
don't give a damn about what we're trying to do is we're trying to get your quad to fire. And, no, man, they don't care about that. We're trying to get them wheels bigger. Like we're trying to get more explosive. Like when you relate it to things that are goals for them, we're trying to get faster. We're trying to jump higher. We're trying to change direction at a higher level. Now they're bought in because they want to be able to do those things. They don't want to hear we're trying to, get the right angles in your change of direction, or, your shin angle needs to be here on,
Mm-hmm.
man, like your shins need to be as, as far forward as possible when we're running, when they're accelerating, because you want to be able to dig back, right? You want to put as much force into the ground. Football athletes have to get to, higher speeds quicker than other athletes. Like these are field sports. So, and that's the same with soccer. You got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to throttle down, throttle up. You got to be able to come and change direction. You got to be able to change direction at a high level. You got to be able to drop your center of mass. You can't get too far out of your center of mass. You're going to slide all over the place. There's so many different little factors that go into this that make things, a lot more relatable to athletes. So long, like I gave you a long answer, but
That's all good. I like long answers because again, I mentioned this quite a lot when people think that they're going on tangents or rants. like if you go on these, you might say the same thing like two or three times, but those two or three that different times are different. Like you're using different analogies, and if someone doesn't quite get the first time nor the second time, they can piece it all together by the third time and create like this visual of what you're intending. So I personally love where coaches go off.
So yeah.
um, you did say something that I'm not quite sure what is. You said something about soccer. I don't know what that is.
So yeah, in America they got soccer, but everywhere else is football. I have
It's
myself sometimes, man, because man, there's not a lot of research on American football, but there's a ton of research on rugby, and I try to
mhm,
read that research to kind of make it as relevant as possible because American football just doesn't have a lot of research, and it's a interesting topic. They're starting to become more articles in it,
mhm,
but also, man, like it's tricky because
yeah,
people aren't willing to give researchers access to teams in the off season, and I completely understand. Like, hell, my job is on the line in the off season. I don't have time to be dilly daddling around with numbers and stuff, or but you do your own little case studies. Hey, these are
mhm,
the results I got. This is what I looked at, and just kind of roll with those
yeah.
punches.
No, I love when people say soccer. Like it gets me so juiced up. um, but so I'm rugby background as well. I started playing when I was like 9, and I played until I was 18. My shoulder dislocated, then I had to stop. But it's I always get asked like, what's the biggest differences between rugby and American football? And the best way that I can describe is impact. That's the biggest differences. The collision forces that happen in American football are a lot higher than the collisions that happen in rugby. Like rugby's kind of controlled because the furthest you'll be away from each other is like 5, 10 meters,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't far. So like even if you manage to pick up a little bit of speed, you'll be stopped by the time you get to the line. So there's not huge impact speeds where you're getting kids that are running 19 to 21, 22 miles per hour head on collisions. Like that's a car crash.
Yeah, this is a car. I was just about to say that, man. Like that's car crash type collisions on a consistent basis. So you have to make sure those guys are physically ready for that. And it's a really big thing in order to get done. So like you have to prepare guys for that. You have to take that seriously. And it's not just the show muscles. You know,
Hmm.
a lot of people like, oh man, he looks the part. He looks the part, right? Man, if your posterior chain, your core, and your neck isn't strong enough to take those collisions on, you're in for a long season. And so,
Hmm.
like the map, the ankle has to be mobile, the knee has to be stable, the hip has to be mobile, the thoracic spine, I mean, your lower back, lumbar has to be stable, your thoracic spine needs to be mobile, your cervical spine needs to be stable, and then your shoulder it needs to be both. It has to be mobile and stable. And so it's just understanding the body to prepare and understanding the sport is key in order to getting the most from your programming and getting your guys ready to go.
100%. When I wasn't in this internship at the time, but I heard a coach speak and he was talking about the processes of developing stability and reactivity in joints. So it was this theory where he goes through isometrics, so gets them really strong in a controlled movement. Then he goes into coming out of isometrics. Then he goes into more eccentric, concentric movements. Then he goes into like a ballistic type movement, and that's for that short, quick firing. But to be able to be strong and stable through that, because if we think about rugby, American football, like there'll be times where you have to reach out quick to get to your opponents, which leaves joints and ankles vulnerable. So it's this um, idea of like, yes, get them strong throughout the whole process of the muscle and the contraction phases, which now looking back, I was like, that's fucking genius because like you do need strength throughout the whole phase.
You do, and I think that's the part that that's why I love that book so much, is because like at no moment do you ever stop training strength, and strength
Hmm.
looks differently.
Yep.
It's a lot of people try to teach pull ups with the dynamic movement, which you start with that ISO pull up hold, and then you start the ISOs in different positions, and then as you get stronger throughout the movement, you become stronger within the movement, and so it's the same way as teaching plyos, right? You teach the landing mechanics.
Hmm.
You have to be able to absorb force before you can produce it. And it's simple as a progression of starting with, bench drops or box drops into a bench drop from a little bit higher distance. And then you go back and regress it back down to a lower distance, but then you add your jump to it. So now you're doing depth drops, and then you started doing from a higher distance, but you have to be reactive. And it's the same concept that you're talking about on the strength side, like that isometric, like, being able, that time under tension, like getting your tendons and ligaments ready during that GPP phase is going to be central in making sure that you're able to do everything that you need to do on the back end to be more explosive with the ballistic movements. And it's so many different ways to do it, and everyone gets married to one way, but
Mm.
you can't get married to one way of doing things. Like if like eccentrics are an extremely important thing, but in order for you to be able to do eccentrics or tempo squats or tempo bench, you have to have some isometric strength, and those tendons got
Yep.
to be ready to handle that load. If they're not able to handle that load, you're just setting them up for injury later.
Yeah. No, I think, and I like the you've just nailed everything that I have been screaming, and it's like you can't be married to one system. Like it's easy to do because like again mentors play a role into this, where if you've got a mentor that loves this one system, we'll just say conjugate. A lot of coaches love conjugate, and that's the system. They'll adapt it here and there, but like they are a conjugate program, but it doesn't look at everything. So then you tie in triphasic, then you tie in French contrast, then you tie in different things. And again, my internship with Ron taught me one thing: is be adaptable and be principle based. Like what principles are you interested in, what do you have in front of you, and what do they need within your wheelhouse? Because like we'll say if we're just triphasic, that's a really good system for Coach Diaz, right? That's who he has in his facilities. That's not who I have in my facility. So it's like it's that thing where you kind of have to know where you are, who you have, and what do they need.
That is an extremely important like caveat, man. Like you have to know your athletes and what they have. Like I couldn't take the program from Alabama when I left to Allen University. Like our guys, we were a brand new football program with nothing but freshmen and sophomores. We had 60 something guys on the team. So one, we had to bulletproof those guys, and thankfully that year we had a broken leg and a partially torn ACL and a concussion. Those were the only three injuries that we had all year. And so ended up, hell, you can't do anything about a broken leg. We couldn't do anything about the concussion. And honestly, the guy, when he went to tackle the guy on the punt return, his leg whipped, and that's when his ACL kind of tore. And so, like, all three of those are like contact injuries that, you know, we just didn't have an answer for. But bigger
You also
part
can't stop those.
can't stop them. And so, but it's knowing that that system what I did there, I went to Grambling. Those guys were much stronger than the guys that I had at Allen University. I mean, it's a Division One FCS school, but then also it's looking at us knowing that hey, we need to get faster. We need to get a little bit more explosive, and being able to first understand that while we were stronger than the guys that were at my last school, like we're still not strong enough to compete at a high enough level. Like the thing I love the most about Grambling is, man, like I had a kid over a summer put 75 pounds on his bench press. We had guys that our defensive back room there at Grambling, Like I think all of those guys but one were squatting over 500 pounds. And we're not talking like, terrible like quarter squat depth. Like we're talking about, full 90-degree to the, where it needs to be, and then, coming out the hole. And, it was pretty cool to see and develop, but then also at the same time, knowing that, hey, I'm going to fan control football. Like I'm writing the workouts up. I got guys that are sending me videos of them doing RDLs 365 for 8 reps. I'm
Damn.
Jesus Christ, wow, how are you this strong? And so, it's knowing that, okay, now I have to adjust my way of thinking, and like I don't need to get these guys stronger. They're strong as hell already. A lot of them are grown men. So how do we increase rate of force development? Is coaching them up on moving the bar as fast as you can, not moving in slow motion, or it's doing French contrast, or like I like to do it as a presentation I did called complex training, where you're
Mm.
combining strength movements with, explosive ballistic movements like, bandit jumps, or, you know, like contrasting Bulgarian split squats with, hurdle hops where they're jumping forward and back over a
Mm.
hurdle, or they're ripping their knee up and down. Like it gives you a lot of little, things to help
Exposures.
guys, get a little bit more explosive and shift that, force velocity curve. So, it gives you a lot of different options. It helps you to do things at a higher level, and it forces you out of the box. Like there's not one system that it's not one size fit all for everyone.
Mm.
We have to figure out what's the best, and that's your job as a strength coach. When you first get the job, is to come in, survey the scene. Like hopefully you have numbers from previous, testing that has occurred, and then from there you can just piece your workout together and do what's best for your athletes, not what you feel like your ego is.
100%. And I think when we're at this level, I think there's so much that can happen. And like when you spoke about like mixing methods, it's that thing where the textbook teaches you one thing, but then the reality is completely different. And it's that thing of like universities do a really good job of teaching you the theory, but they don't do a good enough job of teaching you the practical, unless you do it obviously internships and whatnot, but that's a little bit harder to do at the same time. But it's like having the system of like how can we expose students to what really happens outside of um, the research and the textbooks.
There's no real way to do it other than they have to get out there and coach. There are a ton of people that are excellent researchers and clinicians, and there are terrible coaches. And there are a ton of coaches that are amazing coaches, can build cultures and can get people to buy in. They're terrible researchers, and so the elite coaches are able to do both. They're able to build a culture, and they're able to stay up to date with the research. Like I'm telling you, like I've worked for some tremendous coaches, like Zach Woodfin. He's the head guy of the Tennessee Titans. I mean, he is like probably one of the best human beings I know. Lyle Henley, I'll call Lyle and check in with him and see. We call him the mad scientist, man. That guy is probably one of the best programmers I've ever met in my life. And now working under Coach Carroll, who is like genius research side, genius culture building side. Like these three guys that I've had the ability to really pull a lot from, have been extremely instrumental in me learning and being able to do the things I'm able to do. Like I said, I've been at USC now since May 22nd, and I've learned. I know I have a notebook about this thick of notes that I've taken from like, man, I never thought to do things like this, or I never thought to do things like that. And then also understanding, man, like there's a lot that goes into being a power forward strength and conditioning director. And it's humbling myself to know that, man, I don't know if I was ready for that. Like coming
Mm.
from a FCS program and immediately jumping up to a power four, like the level of detail that you need to have, like that's not a job anyone can do. And you're getting pulled in multiple different directions. And so, you have to be able to, you know, find time to still stay up to date on things. And, you have to lead a staff, and you have to, be able to challenge and, be where your feet are. And honestly, man, like it's humbled me enough to know that, hey, I'm still learning, adding things to my toolbox so I can become, that level of strength coach. So like I'm working on my PhD right now at Liberty University and got like 7 classes left. And, you know, like that process kind of did the same thing for me. Like if, you know, that corner of the room is what I know, like this entire townhome is what I don't know. And so you have to constantly, seek to learn as much as you can and understand that you'll still never know everything.
I think it's having the it's not having the ego to know that though. Like I think as strength coaches we can get quite tied up with our egos and like I know everything, I'm good. But it's like also dropping and being like, actually, I'm not great at this part. Let me try and find out a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's the common human nature. You think that you're good enough to do something or that you're adequate at something, but then like it's being, having a mirror placed in. And I have a saying, man, the hardest look a man has to take is the look in the mirror. And you can't be who you used to be and who you're trying to be at the same time. And so if I'm trying to be an elite coach, like I have to let go of those things that I felt like this is a black and white concrete thing, right? And me open to learning. There are certain things that aren't going to change. You have to have some level of strength in order to be explosive. Like that's not going to
Hmm.
change, right? But the way you increase your levels of strength, there are so many different methods that you can do. You got 5-3-1, you got triphasic, you got French contrast, you got the West Side, you got 5-5-5, you got like there's so many different ways to do it. You got increase the engine size, which is muscle size. You got increase, your CNS function by, you know, lifting heavier weight. You got, recruiting more muscle. You got intermuscular coordination. You got intramuscular coordination. Like, dude, like it's so many different things
Hmm.
that, you can take into account in order to still get to the goal. But just because one person took a train, one person took a bus, one person took a plane, doesn't mean that they still don't get to LA. It means that there's a different way to get there.
Coach K from LSU said it the best way. When you have athletes, you need to raise the ceiling and expand the floor. So it's like this idea of like pushing both ends and really making sure that they have capacity for everything that they might encounter.
Man, that is a damn great quote, man. And honestly, I'm gonna have to write that one down. It's true. Like you have to be able to do both. If you can't do both, man, if you can't, and then also like you gotta be able to increase speed and increase strength. And like kind of goes to my next point where with speed, like we overcomplicate it.
Yep.
Like after reading Tom Tellis's book, um, The Art of the Sprint, I think it's the name of it, The Art of the Sprint, and like it really just breaks it down into such a simple level of like running fast is about body positioning. That is really what this book is like. What this is about. I mean, you look at Art of the Sprint. Yep, that's it. The Science of Speed, The Art of the Sprint. Like I go back over that book a lot, man, because it's a thin book. It's about that big. But it's probably one of the best speed books out there, just because of how it simplifies things for you, as to understand that your center of mass is the key to running fast. Like when I'm accelerating, I need to be striking under my center of mass that's back this way, right? And when, of course, I'm going to work myself up the top end mechanics. And when I'm clawing, when I'm coming forward with my foot, I need to strike under my hip, which is my center of mass. And so, like being elite at body positioning and being elite at, understanding the muscles of sprinting, like That's really what it boils down to. Man, you got to be strong enough to accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be, you know, bouncy enough and coordinated enough and have enough rhythm in order to, get to your top end speed. And, the science shows that you can only hold top end speed for 10 meters before you start decelerating. And that's the track side of it. But when it comes to American football, like this game is a game of ACL, decel, change of direction and
Mm-hmm.
agility. So a lot of the times, so many coaches spend so much time on max velo that they don't spend enough time on acceleration, which is such a big part in the game of American football. Starting and stopping, starting and stopping, starting and stopping, reacting to a stimulus. That's agility, right? And so, like, if you can't do that stuff,
I really can't remember where I got this from. I think it was a video that I watched like a long time ago, and it was you don't run faster because you move like you can move your legs faster. You move faster because you can hit the ground harder. And I think that was a perfect example of like if you want to run faster, you have to attack the floor faster.
and it's like I'm telling you, like Coach Richie Bean is the head track coach at Alabama State University, and he's won over 60 titles since he's been there. And there's a sprint coach there by the name of Justin Anderson, and then there's another coach there, Coach Alexis. He's the jumpers coach, and like that staff is one of the best track staffs I've been around. And just being able to watch how they coach it and what they do, like even with like I would sit out at track practice sometimes and watch the sprinters practice. And so we had a sprinter that competed in the Olympic trials at 18. His name's Jamarian Stubbs, and when he hit the ground, like it was just a different sound. Like
Mm.
it's sound like it has a
It,
sound.
it's a thud.
It
Like a,
is. It is, and it's so noticeable. The difference between elite speed guys and guys that are, trying to figure that part out. Man, that impact into that ground is next freaking level, man. And it's like even with football, like those guys that are fast, it's a different sound when it hits that turf. And so it's teaching guys how to project their shoulders forward. It's teaching guys like how important hip flexor work is and your core is, especially your lower core in the sprint.
mm,
It's being able to teach body positions and projecting and a hidden thing. And I hope everyone's listening to this. Like a hidden thing that people miss when teaching acceleration is that a lot of these athletes do not push off both feet. They only push off the front leg. And pushing off that front leg only, like you're leaving so much extra power from your back leg. And then, a lot of athletes are trying to cycle too fast. Like
mm-hmm.
they're not treating it like the piston that it needs to be during the acceleration phase. And so too many guys are coming out of the blocks in their first step, their shin is too vertical and they're popping straight up and it immediately slows them down. And once that slowdown happens, you're not gonna run a good time.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can tell when someone's gonna be fast within their first three steps. Like
Yep.
that. Right. And it's gonna sound a certain way when you're attacking the ground with a violent intent to be fast. Like you don't like everyone's not gonna be fast, but you can help them be faster. Some people
Mm-hmm.
want the genetic lottery, right? But there's also that's the importance of being able to record people and their starts and recording these things. And then, video analysis is important because hey, this is what we're doing wrong right here. Let's fix this part of it, or let's slow down enough for us to be able to, correct our issues.
Mm-hmm.
And like, of course, like there are so many drills that people are using in order to, you know, to teach speed. But speed to me is so simple. It's body position, it's rhythm, and it's strength. You can maintain if you can get those three things down, you can have
Mm-hmm.
some pretty fast athletes.
So I 100% love this area. Um, so when I was at UW, Coach AJ taught me what horizontal velocity is, right? It's not about you just being like this. It's also about like how less of steps you can take to get to the same distance, right? Because that's essentially how running fast works. And it's the same like when we're teaching like a CMJ or a jump test, you obviously get higher by moving your hands up, propels you up a little bit farther. Uh, We know this. But what you touched on, and I think it's brilliant, you also need to do that when you're running. So, yes, you're striking the foot, but you can also like propel your other leg forward to get that shorter, not shorter distance because the distance doesn't decrease, but it's like how many steps less you take to get to the same distance. And it's a fascinating area because it's like it goes back to what you're saying. People overcomplicate speed. Why have a runner on 1080 when they can't propel themselves properly first?
You have to be able to project out. If you cannot project out, if you look at super elite receivers, like if they're coming off the line of scrimmage, their body angles are they're trying, their goal is to eat up as much distance as quickly as they can
Hmm.
to get to that defensive back. So if I have a defensive back here and my receiver is here, his goal, this guy's backpedaling, but this guy is trying to close that distance. So now once I get, onto this defensive back's toes, now he's at my mercy because
Hmm.
I can get to run my route, I get to pop and reaccelerate. But even then, like if I don't get in the right body position to accelerate or to come out of my brakes, like people make that part complicated too. You break it down for your athletes. Like I have this drill that I do where it's called gears, and I learned it from a book. I can't remember what book it was, but there's like we start them off at 50%, we take them to 75%, we take them to 25%, then we
Is the
make them to
speed?
100%, right, of their
Yeah.
speed, right? And so it's half speed, 3/4 speed, 1/4
Mm.
speed, 100%. So it teaches them about what that feels like, right? A lot of the research, and you listen to a lot of the NFL guys talk about this, that the best speed to change direction at is about 17 miles per hour, right? And being able to get up to 17 fast, throttle it down and change direction and reaccelerate. Now, when you reaccelerate out, like Lyle talks about it when he did a podcast with Connect Son called Exit Velocity. That is what you really want once I make my move, to be able to turn that on and then get up to a 19, 20 miles per hour coming out of your brake. Now, if I can get to 19, 20 miles per hour within, 6 steps, I have, like if I'm running what they call a dig route, which I'm running here, running straight up the field, maybe 10 yards, and then I throttle it down and then I go across the field, right? Like that route, I'm gonna have enough time to be able to pick those steps of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gotta be at damn near top speed by that time frame. And the only way you're gonna be able to do that is be in the right body position and accelerate out of that break to work my body back up to be able to make a reception. A lot goes into that, right? But to simplify that, I gotta first work my projection out. I gotta come to a point to where I'm training deceleration. So that's early in the process. I'm sprinting forward 5 yards, 10 yards, and then I come to a stop into athletic position. That's, you train that early in your GPP
Mm.
phase. Like it's tendon health, is the isometric work in your GPP phase, it's the tempo squats that you're gonna do during the eccentric phase, and it's being able to train that, also being able to drag things backwards, walking backwards, getting your hamstrings and quads and tendons ready for that type of training. Then you progress it up into, now I got to come to get up to a faster speed. Now I got to stop within 5 yards, right? So now it's teaching these guys to stop at an elite level. Now, once I'm able to stop at an elite level, now let's add a different component to it, a multi-directional component to it, to where now I'm understanding I'm under my center of mass. How do I reaccelerate in order to make the plays that I need to make? Or same way with a defensive back. Like they're in the back pedal. they have to stop in athletic position, put their foot into a ground like a T-step, and explode back forward to close the distance after a guy makes that move, right? And so it's teaching those things to your athletes and being able to relate it to what they do on a daily basis in their sport. And there in itself is going to create your buy-in, and then also being able to show them what they're doing wrong in order to improve it is probably going to be your best bet.
You've given so much there. Damn.
Man, it's we make things like
Overcomplicated.
make them so complicated, man. Like, hey, dude, if you want to get stronger, you have to pick up heavy shit. Like, this is the reality of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I want to be like, what's the simplest form of plyometric exercise that you learn as a kid? Jumping rope.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
A lot of people don't jump rope anymore. Those are foot contacts, man, and that's increasing your rate of force development, right? That's something that Alabama, like a lot of people didn't understand why it was in the program. There were jump ropes within you have to jump rope. That's why you need to be able those foot contacts. That's the simple form of plyometric exercise. Hell, like most kids don't know how to skip nowadays. You have to teach skipping.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up as a kid, like we skipped all the time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna take a run, you're gonna jump up onto a box, or you're gonna jump up onto something as a kid, or you're jumping rope, you're skipping, you're doing these things. So, man, like you gotta like play. I took a history of a physical education course,
Mm-hmm.
and we're getting my master's, and it's probably one of the biggest things that stuck with me from that program is while in that course, like teaching kids to go outside and play is the
Mm-hmm.
first form of long-term athletic
Exercise.
development,
Yep.
because you're getting all of those movements. Like you jump out of a tree and you land with your knees bent and your hips back. That's what your body self-regulates to do that as a kid. Like you look at kids and their mobility is so funny, man. Like they can get into a deep squat with no effort. And then we get older and we stop doing that and stop moving around, and then you get stiff, and you can't do that same thing that your body was born doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, all right,
So
man.
I've spoken about this quite a lot, and so my company is called Primitive Athletics, and it's going back to that primitive ability of movement. Like, have you have you ever watched just stood and watched the baby move and see the different positions that they're getting into? Neck rolls, they're coming up, they're trying to figure out their neck positioning. They can like literally be on their back, but like pull their legs to be facing up. It's like their movement ability isn't restricted by anything. They're flexible. They've got all these again, they've got less bones and their bones are a little bit different. But like it's still having that ability to do those things. And then we grow up and society tells you, oh actually, jumping is deemed quite silly. You should probably stop jumping everywhere. And you're kinda like, but why? I tell the story like I made my dad like I always challenge my dad to move and sprint. One of the things that I get him to do is jump a lot because it's like everyone loses the ability to jump at some point. But like let's prolong how long that would take. So I'm like,
Mhm.
I bet you can't jump. I bet you can't tuck your knees up and jump. He's like, fuck you, yes I can. So he jumps. My favorite one was my granny. She was 95 at the time. She's now 97. And like she can't jump, but like she does like a little Michael Jackson where she goes up in her tippy toes and then moves down. But like she's still being exposed to that stimulus. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's important is like when we're watching children grow, we should still be able to do those things now. Obviously not to the same um ability because there is deterioration, but we should still be able to squat to full depth. We should still be able to withstand like pressure going into our necks. We should still be able to move our thoracics in ways that allow us to do extra movements.
I agree with you 100%, man. Like it's again, like it's there are so many deep ways of thought. And I'm not saying that, you know, like there's not a place for some of the more complicated drills, because there are. But are those guys ready for that type of stimulus?
Mm-hmm.
order for, like, we can't have these kids watching these NFL guys on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and you're in the third grade, fourth grade, and you're trying to do some of that, some of those drills. Like, no, son, let's, like, even now, right? I thought that going to, Alabama State from Clark Atlanta, or going from Allen to Grambling State, or hell, even going from Alabama State to USC, that, man, like, these guys are gonna know how to run, right? Man, like, a lot of guys, no matter what level they're on, hell, even in fan controlled football, a lot of those guys, and they were professionals. Some of those guys played in the NFL, still needed work on their running mechanics, and understanding, like, what it looks like, not striking in front of your, and like, not start striking in front of your center of mass, putting 6 to 8 times your body weight on your hamstring, and pulling it. And a lot of these guys got chronic hamstring pulls,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a running mechanic thing. Excuse me. And if we can solve, those little problems, as well as strengthening the hamstring, and doing those things, and you could really cut down the exposure to hamstring injuries. I'm not saying you can prevent them, but you can bulletproof them. And I think, like, the hamstring, everyone focuses on the contraction part of it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
Yes, 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 yes.
they don't focus enough on the eccentric part of it. And there's an isometric portion to that as well. And so, like, we cannot negate those things when training your hamstrings. To bulletproof them, you have to train them the same. You have to have an isometric component. Like, you can go, sprinter bridge holds, you can do
Mm-hmm.
those. You can go, the eccentric portion, get a hamstring roller and control it out, or you can go, tempo RDLs. But then also, like, the concentric portion of it is it's a quick pull, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I have to come up fast on my RDLs. My good morning can't be here and here. Like, I gotta control this thing down. I gotta come up and mean business and fire my glutes.
Mm.
Or same way with a glute ham developer. Like, I get 1, 2, 3. When I come up, I have to come up and mean business, right? And so,
I like that. Mean business.
yeah, and so it's training those, those qualities. Like, knock on wood, man. I don't really like to have a lot of hamstring injuries. You know,
Yeah.
like, I tore my hamstring when I ran track, and I stepped in a dip in the track, and my hamstring pulled and tore off the bone. And so, that was in 2000. That's 25 years ago, man. But the same thing holds true with the hamstring, is that there's an isometric component,
Mm-hmm.
there's an eccentric component, and there's a concentric component. So you need to train those three different components, but then get coordinated enough with working with sprinting, and sprinting the right way, and doing the right sprinting drills, like marching, and, like, dude, Les Spellman has it figured out, man. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
I
Les
have,
Spellman,
yeah.
Les is probably one of the best guys to do it. Like, and just keeping basic drills, teaching them at a high level, marches, like, we're going walks, marches, like, and then you add those components to it, and then from there you still got the weight room component, and you marry those together, and then now you're kind of working on those different things.
Mm.
So, man, I know I went on again another little rant, but it's just like one of those things, man, where, like, we have to, a lot of the times you can get the complicated answer by
Mm-hmm.
breaking things down on a simpler level, and then being able to, kind of grow from there.
100%. So I taught a GPP class the other day. I think it was Monday, and I exposed them to all three in the same day. Now it wasn't like high volume, high load. Like we still need to understand what's happening, but like just so they could experience. So I did isos, and then went eccentrics. Then I did some plyo type drills. Plyo, I mean explosive ish drills, just to see that they can feel the difference between them and what areas are more engaged during it. Like, I did the class afterwards, and it was like your legs are jelly. If you experience like all the ranges and all the contractions. Like it's different.
It is, and like it's the thing that like, I think the average person like they look at sports and they be like, "Man, he should have did this." Man, I don't know if you can do that. Merely less like telling someone else that they can do this, but like it's like you said, man, it's exposing yourself to those multiple different things, and like, and if you haven't done them before, you have done them in a while, like it's gonna fry you, and
Hmm.
like, but you have to make sure that, like, even if you hit 2 out of 3 in that cycle, if I get the eccentric and concentric part, then maybe the next lift I do the isometric and the concentric part, or like I think that like it would be a great research paper, but like what are the phases of the hamstring, during sprinting mechanics, and how much do each one of those phases, like percentage wise,
Hmm.
affect sprinting? And I think people would be surprised at how much isometrics make a difference in
Hmm.
hamstring work, because I mean it's a
So
rabbit hole for sure.
100%. It's that in between sector. So like obviously you've got your concentric, then your eccentric. That was the quads, but eccentric, concentric, whatever way you want to look at it. But isometric is that in between where it's like it's a split second. It doesn't last long, but it's like that boom, boom, and then you're
Mhm.
back, boom, boom, and it's trying to figure out like it's exactly what you're saying. It's like knowing which phase comes when and what needs strength.
Because if they don't have the strength, man, like the isometric portion could be the part that pulls. It could be that eccentric part, or it could be just a coordination thing, man. Like it's a
Oh,
like
that's something I was going to say before as well. When you were talking about the skipping, I think it's also very important to teach kids rhythm. Like when,
absolutely, man. Like rhythm and coordination is one of those athletic abilities that go like if you look at a lot of really good athletes, they can dance. And they
hmm
can dance because they have really good rhythm. And they have really good rhythm because they're really good athletes that run in really good rhythm. And so like it's a neat little concept. It's kind of like the rabbit hole box that I kind of go down sometimes. But like I've never my son my oldest son was 6'6", played defensive end,
yeah.
and ran legit like on the laser 4 or 5 on the laser. And
Oh,
so like, but he can dance. He's probably like me and my second son. We can't dance, but he he can, and like it kind of goes to his athleticism. Like he was hella athletic, man, and it like I've seen it. Like even like a lot of our defensive backs at USC, like they can dance really well. Our wide receivers, they can dance. Like, it's just rhythm because they can
hmm
how high change direction at a high level, or get the full speed at a high level, or they can do this at a high level or do that at a high level, um, athletically, and it kind of marries. Like I have a saying, like look at how a guy gets off the ground to tell you how athletic he is. Because if I have like me, my old ass now, I got to turn over, and, hold on to something, get up. Like you see a lot of guys just get up, man. Like they just no hands, nothing else, just they just stand up, right?
yeah.
And like it's just one of those things, man. Like it gets lost in the sauce because of complications and how
hmm
we complicated we try to make things, and how we try to squeeze all this stuff into 1 hour. And you gotta be smart in how you program it. Like the weight room, when you get your off season time, like man, I would, as a director, I spent a lot of my time on acceleration, and I felt like it made a big difference.
I think when it kind of goes back to that thing like the simplest ways win. Like it's like when you try and overcomplicate it, it goes back to that jargon. It goes back to everything. Like just keep it simple. The simple works. So like it's no fucking mystery that it works. So why try and go above and beyond? Like you're already only getting 1% better at that point. Would I want to risk on something more extreme where I know that the basic now there's obviously exceptions, like you have to expose them to unique stimulus to then get those 1% betters, but it's like squat is a squat, deadlift is a deadlift, RDL is an RDL, bench press is a bench press. Like that shit works. Now, whether you're on a dumbbell, a barbell, like as long as the stimulus is there, does it matter?
I don't know if it does. And it's always, like the your posterior chain is just so important
Mm-hmm.
in everything that you do. And I think a lot of times, like we're so focused on the show muscles that our go muscles get neglected. Like
Mm-hmm.
you think about a lot of guys out here with a lot of shoulder injuries. Like you ask them, like I like to ask guys, like, "Hey man, like how many face pulls were you doing, or how many reverse flies were you doing, or how much rowing have you done? Like how many pull ups can you do?" And that literally like red flags it for me and shows me, man, like I'm just real big on rowing. I always have been. And like no matter what, pendulay row, incline rows,
Mm-hmm.
barbell bent over rows, upright rows, pull downs, face pulls, pull ups, chin ups, neutral grips, like wherever we are, man, like wherever I am, like good mornings, GHRs, RDLs, like tricep extensions, like all that back of the body work. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna program that shit, and it's gonna be in the program. And if it's not in the program, or we're just doing too much pressing, you just go ahead and set yourself up for them labrums and all that stuff because there's no stability in your shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, sorry, it's the simplification of things, man. Like that book, that like if you can find, let me say, it's the periodization of training for team sports by Tudor Bumper, and it's the third edition. Yep, there it is, right there. It was written February 17th of 2015, and it's the third edition. There's a guy on the front doing push-ups. That book right there, man, that book is golden. Do you understand me? And I read that book once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Once a year, I read that book because I pull something from it on a consistent basis. Like that book has the tempos, like it has as far as like what you're trying to get accomplished. It has a section in there that talks about the ratios of pushes to pulls and things of that nature, like anterior work to posterior work. And a lot of that stuff's like 3-2, or some people do 3-1. Like they'll do three pulls. I mean, yeah, three pulls for every one press. But that
Mm-hmm.
stuff helps you out tremendously in regards to what you're trying to get accomplished for your athletes body wise. But I think that book to me, I'm telling you, like has been so instrumental in like my program and philosophy. And like you said, like can't get married to systems, but you have to have your principles and philosophies
Mm-hmm.
that you believe in. And then from there, like you find, the greatest systems come from multiple systems.
Yep.
And there are so many different ways, like I said, to do it. So if I'm like, all right, our goal, we need to become a lot more explosive team. That means that, yes, I need to spend some time on getting them bigger, that first block. But that second block, we got to get them stronger. And that third block, we got to train power. So we can go GPP, like an anatomical adaptation, the first 4 weeks. The next 4 weeks, we can go max strength. And then the next 4 weeks, we can go a conjugate method where we go max strength first part of the week, second part of the week, we go ballistic. And plyometric work, we add that in. You got to make sure too, man, that you're training the right stuff at the right time. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I'm max strength phase, acceleration is what I need to train, right? So in those strength days, if my lower body is if I'm squatting, like I need to make sure that I'm getting that sled work, my acceleration, my projection work during that phase. But when I get to my power phase, where it's lighter weight, we're focusing on trying to shift that force curve, man. Like my biggest thing I'm working is plyometric work, top end mechanics, high velocity things, because it is married to what I'm doing in the weight room. The healthiest season I've ever had from a sport was with women's basketball at Grambling State University, because they married practice and the off-season program they were doing to the weight room. So when I deloaded them in the weight room, Coach Murray and Coach Diaz, man, they were awesome. Coach Pierre, man, like those guys, like that they did an awesome job. And on those weeks that we deloaded them, they did yoga with them, or they would do
Mm.
like a recovery run with them, where they would like, hey coach, like they coming in, we got deload week. All right, well, we're gonna cut everything out. We're gonna do some skill work where we focus on shooting, free throw shooting, and like the skill portion of the game. It'll only be for like 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll send them out, and then the next week we can get back to it. We had one ankle sprain that year, and she came back in 2 games from an ankle sprain. I was supposed to keep her out for 10, and
Um,
she, yeah, so she was like, the team was strong, man. Those girls, some of them girls on that team, man, was squatting 300 pounds, and like in season, like they would fuss about it, like, oh man, Coach T, but I'm like, hey man, look, we're at 70% today. 3 sets of three. You got 9 squats. I don't want to hear shit about, like how much it is. Normally in the off season, you do 25 reps. It's in season. You can get these 3 sets of three. I'm only going to expose you to it once a week because you're playing 3, 4 games a week. Hey, I need this one day where you give it to me. The rest of the time, like, we'll go conjugate in season, where now we'll be focusing on lighter weight, moving it explosively, trap bar jumps, things of that nature. But give me this day, because a lot of people mess up to where they focus so much on power, but you can never negate strength. So you
mm,
always, even if I have a 4 day, one of those days of my 3 power day, my 3 of them can be power days. One day still needs to be dedicated to strength, because if you're not training strength, you're gonna lose it. No
mhm.
matter how much power training you're doing, if you don't train strength, you're gonna lose. And
I
most people,
think as well, like a lot of people neglect the pathways of the different systems. Like, so there's obviously strength, speed, power, endurance. Those are your four main. You can add in agility, but I'll class that as some offset of speed. To be powerful, you need to be strong. To be strong, there's a inherited ability to produce power. Power, strength, speed. The ability to do that over a long distance a period of time, endurance. So like it's one thing, and even like on a muscular level, like hypertrophy gets your muscles bigger. Then you need to expose them to strength, recruit as much neural neurons as possible. Then when you've got the neurons, then you expose them to type 2. Let's get those twitchy fibers up.
mhm,
Then how long can we keep this up for? Endurance. It's that thing. It's like I think people see him as like 1, 2, 3, 4, and not as one.
it's like you have to be able to. His repeat sprint ability is
Hmm.
huge, man. Like in the fourth quarter of a American football game, man. Like you got to be able. If I call a 9 route
You
with
need
my,
to still be as explosive as you were in the first quarter.
if not more explosive.
Yep.
And I know that, like I've told guys, like every rep, like you need to go. I need more each rep. Like get that mindset of, okay, I got that first quarter out of the way. My second one, I need to push harder. Third one, I need to push even harder. The fourth one, I need to empty the tank. What are you saving stuff for? You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Like the game of football is a game of inches. Like, and we don't know. I have a saying, man. We don't know which rep is the championship rep. So
Hmm.
therefore, all of them are championship reps. That's the quality of weight work that we're looking for in the weight room. If you don't have that when you come in, man, we got to find a way to get it for you. We got to send you back out and bring your ass back in. And when you do, have that, because we got to have it day in and day out, man. Like that's just the reality of it. Like, and that's been like something that I've preached in every program that I've been over. Like, man, look, like intent is king, and that there are going to be hard days. I'm going to always take care of my athletes, deloading them. I'm going to make sure we stretch them. We're going to work mobility. We're going to work mobility within the lift, but
Hmm.
also, like, if I'm going to take care of you, I need you to take care of me by coming in here having the right mindset, the right intent, not just going through the motions, not just here to check the box. Because if you're just here to check the box, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you to come back at a time a little less convenient for you, so we can actually get what we need to get out of you.
That's interesting. So are you having them back in at different times?
Man, at Alabama State, I would do that. Like, hey, man,
Nice.
since, since this is what you on today, I'll see you at 5 p.m. You know, man, coach, I gave you the opportunity to come in here and lift with the group. You didn't want to do that, or you just came in here thinking you was just gonna play around. Yeah, I'll see you later time. It only took one or two times for that to happen for guys. I meant business, and it was like, all right, man, I'm not doing that.
I think that's an important conversation. It's something that Coach Mark taught us at UW. It's set your intentions from the get go. Like, let them know what you expect of them, but also what do they expect of you. And it's having that. It's a hard talk, but it's like, this is what I want. What do you want? Let's find the middle ground. That's our performance.
Absolutely, man. And I think that clearer you can be, and that's something that I've learned. Like the expectations and the standards don't change from day to day. Like, man, these are the expectations. This is where you should be and what we're expecting. And if that's not where you are, you got to find a way to get to where we are. We're not lowering the standard to you.
Mm,
And it's it makes you know we we rely like we're really crazy, right? Because our job are dependent on the moods of 18 to
hmm
24-year-old people. I remember when I was 18 to 24 years old, I was not the most stable, like in the bunch. So, like, I'm like, man, like I base my career on this now. Like, I feel to do this, but man, like I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, man.
You mentioned something before, and it's kind of a topic that I've been diving into since last December. So I hosted a webinar where it was the practical application of sports science, and I had Thomas Newman on who talked about force plates, and obviously with force plates you can get so much data, so much metrics, so many KPIs that you want. But it was this idea of focusing on one or two metrics and having that base your programs, and then depending on what phase you're in, your metrics can change. So like if it's high velocity type block, let's look at jump height. If it's like a more deceleration, um, eccentric type uh, block, let's look at landing mechanics. Like how's your landing happening? It's like it's not getting bogged down with all the metrics, because like you can get paralysis by analysis, right? So it's like, how can we simplify this to make sure that we're extrapolating what we need?
I think that's brilliant. Actually, it's kind of like that thing, like I just talked about with marrying, you know, maximum strength and acceleration together. Like once I read that in that book with Bumper, I was like, man, that makes so much sense because if like during acceleration is where you spend the most time on the ground, right? And so right now, like strength is not a fast number.
Hmm.
Like BBT on your 70% is not going to be the point 1 point anything, right? Like you're looking at maybe point 0.6, point 0.7, somewhere around that, right? Point 0.5 even sometimes. And so if that's the case, I'm spending longer moving the weight. I'm gonna spend longer on the ground. Those two things need to be together. So when I'm doing maximum strength and I'm doing, power training, like it's lighter weight, but our goal is to move it as fast as possible. And if I can move more, like if my 30% of my squats 225 versus it being 135, of course I'm gonna become more powerful because here we are, we're moving more weight. So I'm spending less time on the ground. I want to spend less time in a eccentric portion of the lift. So now my focus does need to be married to plyometrics, which are quick contacts off the ground, and it needs to be the max V on when it comes to my training focus with speed. And so like you said, if I'm getting force plate data and my goal is max strength, right? Well, how much force am I putting into the plates in order to get the height, and how can we increase that? Whereas, like you said, we're training deceleration. I need to focus on like how much force is coming back as a landing mechanics, or that transition from the
Mm.
eccentric loading to the concentric takeoff, like that time frame. How can I lower that? If I'm in a power phase, like it's like you said, it's so much information that is provided. It's finding the most relevant information, not only for your athletes, but to the phase of training that you're in. I think that's pretty brilliant.
Again, it's specificity. Like, what are you looking at? What can I get it? And keeping it simple. I
Right.
think that is key. And I'm like, and it rings true at all levels. Like, the most elite is doing simple work exceptionally well.
And as long as you like, you look at a lot of these guys train. You look at a lot of these guys train. Like even like I'll watch some YouTube videos of these guys are still doing A skips. These guys are still doing marches. They're still doing walks. They're still focusing on acceleration mechanics. They're still working arm action. Like they're still doing all these same things
Mm-hmm.
that guys are trying to skip that step to running fast. You just can't do it. Like
Yeah.
like the foundations are never wrong. Like
Mm-hmm.
you have to have unilateral strength to increase bilateral strength because you never fully squat off both legs. So I'm gonna have to have some split squats. I'm gonna have to have some Bulgarians. I'm gonna have to have some lateral Cossacks. I'm gonna have to have some lateral some step back lunges. I'm gonna have to have a lot of different things right in order
Mm-hmm.
to get what I need. And the sooner people can understand that, man, like I think the better off, the strength and conditioning world is going to be. But again, like it goes back to like we talked about earlier, it goes back to keeping the basics, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You also have to make sure you're communicating with the athletes effectively. You have to marry the right things together, programming wise, and then you just have to be able to relate to the athletes that you have. And you do those things, like strength and conditioning is not really that complicated.
100% agree. This is my battle.
We're every
What's
everyone wants
sorry.
to be the next big coach with the
Mm-hmm.
next big system. When man, like our goal should be as a performance coach is to maximize performance. How do you maximize performance in the time frame that you have? Start there, and then you know
Mm-hmm.
disassemble it, and then reassemble it, piece by piece to get to where you need to go.
I think as well, it's like we're we're in a serving industry. We're not in a look at me industry. It should be that way, anyways. Like, I would rather have my athletes excel and then be the face than me be like, look what I fucking did. Like, I I care that my athletes are getting there.
Man, it's really interesting that you say that, man, because like at the end of the day, like man, it doesn't really matter. We're the production team. We'll get all the blame when stuff's
Yep.
not right, and we'll get none of the credit when it is. And
Yep.
you know that coming into the field, so there's no point in you trying to change that narrative up. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. This is our goal, and so let's get these kids better. Let's, help them help their dreams come true.
Yep.
And, you have to be, okay, and you should be okay with that being the case because you know what you signed up for.
Yeah. What's the most impactful decision you've made in your career so far?
Um, Leaving sales, I was in sales um, up until 2014, 2015. Like I went all into strength and conditioning in 2016. That's been the most impactful thing I did. Like I trusted my faith, man, and it's crazy that the day I wrote my resignation letter, like I got nervous. I was like, man, am I doing the right thing? And you know, like I talked to my ex-wife at the time, and I was like, man, like, what do you think about this? And then, man, like as I got nervous, like I printed the letter off, like I heard God say, man, I got you. Like
Mm.
I heard it clear as day because I had two clients. I was doing some personal training. I had two clients. By the end of that week, I had 10. And by the end of that first month, I had 25. And I was making more money as a personal trainer and able to make my own schedule than I was in sales because I was doing construction sales at the time. And so, like, man, like I'm looking at that, and then I am, going to UAB in the morning, and then training, people in the afternoon. And then when I went to Alabama, I was waking up at 3:45 in the morning, driving an hour and 15 minutes to Tuscaloosa, be there by 6, set up. Had the 3 groups, would drive back home at probably like 1:30, get to the gym at 3 o'clock, stay at the gym from 3 until 9, and then go home, see the kids for a second, work on my master's degree work because I was working on my own grad school stuff at the time, and then waking up and doing it all over again the next day. And I'll say those were the greatest decisions that I made, and has been the most impactful for my career.
How important were your um, Gen Pop days in your career?
It helped. Like, I have never had a problem with being able to talk to people. It's probably one of my strengths. I can make everyone feel welcome, like wherever I am, and so it really helped me to hone into not having a one size fits all program for everyone. It helped me understand the importance of being able to program. And each one of my clients had a different program based upon their goals, like their restrictions. I would always do an assessment with them, like at the beginning, kind of look and see how they squatted, if they could do push-ups, if they can do pull-ups, if they could do, do some mobility work. And I would, like test their cardiovascular health. And like all of that stuff helped me become a better strength coach because those are like the same things that you kind of have to test when it comes to athletes. You got to test speed, you got to test, broad jump, vertical jump. You have to test, squat patterns, like in any FMS or fusionetics or whatever you're using, movement screening wise, or you can create your own. Like movement
Mhm.
screening is not tough. You just got to make sure you know what to assess and how to correct it. But that's what helped me the most in regards to being a strength coach from Gym Pop days.
So I come from a Gen Pop phase as well, and it's the soft skills that really make your programs. Like you can, I mean, I don't know what it looks like, but you can write the best program, but if you can't deliver it, that program ain't working.
Pointless. And man, like you have to have an opportunity to be able to do that and enjoy it and learn people and like be able to
Mhm.
build relationships. That's a really big thing for me. Is just like the relationship building. Some of my clients still call me to this day and like, hey, can you have some openings? Like you got when are you coming back to Alabama? I'm like, I'm not coming back. But it just kind of speaks to, the impact that you have on people.
Mhm.
And like, it's the same way a lot of my former athletes and stuff like that. So like, I enjoy that part of it. I enjoy seeing the success that they and the experience they get. It gives me, my purpose and passion.
100%. Was some advice that you would give new coaches or coaches wanting to come into this industry?
You don't know shit. And it's okay that you don't know shit. And like you can learn something from any experience. Like you can learn how to deal with difficult people. You can learn how to get your ass chewed out. You can learn how to not take everything so personal. And also like don't ever stop learning.
Mhm.
Like the minute that you stop learning is the time you need to get out of this field. And you'll never know everything, and that's okay that you don't know everything. That's why it's always great to know how to hire people and how to utilize their strengths when hiring them. There's a book, um, Jesus Christ, what's the name of that book? It was written by a former U.S. SEAL that did the perfect push up. Oh no, perfect push up.
Is it how to build relationships and win people or something like that?
It is Alden Mills is the guy that created the perfect push up. and he's a former Navy SEAL. And the book is called Unstoppable Teams by Alden Mills. And the book speaks to how, like, being able to identify people's superpowers and put them in positions to be successful with their superpowers within the team. That's it. And so, like, my former staff, like Irvin McKenzie, is really good at organization. Courtney Portis was really good with relationships and conversation, and Keon Thorpe was really good with the analytics. So Keon was over our sports science stuff. Irv was over like organizing like our speed workouts as far as and he had a really good background in speed as well. Had taken a lot of courses that he had took. And so we wanted to utilize him in that capacity. I was really good programming wise, so I would handle the programming for football, but I also didn't micromanage them. And so
Mm.
by making sure that I put them in positions to be successful while still developing the other sides of them, like things they weren't good at, was able to put our staff in a great position to be successful. Man, like last year, our basketball team won the conference for the first time in like almost 15 years. Our women's track team, bowling, golf, all those teams like repeated or won championships and things of that nature. And so our small part in that and making sure the team was healthy and prepared was really big. And it's because they were in the spots to be successful.
Um, to back up a little bit, I think you'll appreciate this one. So I'm from Portugal. We have a phrase that translates to, "You can learn something from everyone, even a dumb person. You can learn not to be them." And it's that thing that you're saying, like, take every experience and learn and extract what you can from it.
Yeah, man, it's really important. And like I had to have this talk with a couple of athletes. And it was like, oh, I can't learn anything from someone that hasn't done what I'm trying to do. Yes, you can, because you can learn why they're not doing what you want to do, how not to make those mistakes. Or like some of the best advice I've gotten has been from janitors or from
Mm,
people that might not have this large station in life, but wisdom can come from anywhere, man. And the minute that you stop handcuffing yourself to wisdom only coming from successful people,
hmm
what do you define as success? In one side of the puzzle, some people define success as having a great life with a family that loves them and like being able to live in a life of adequacy, not of, and some people define success having the most money, having a nice car. Like however you define success and is how you define it. But then also, like as you get older, you'll start to understand like success isn't it's a different it
hmm
looks different in different phases of your life. Like now, like man, what I see as being successful is having peace in my
mm
life. It's having the ability to learn and grow and to be able to provide a great life for my children. Those are what I deem successful now. I used to deem it as, oh man, I want to be a director at a Power Five school, and I won't be successful until I'm that. Well, it's shifted as my life
mm
has grown and changed. So, man, like, yeah, like just don't don't handcuff yourself to you know the little things. Like there are things that and I look at some of my programs when I first wrote them versus now, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man, like what were you thinking here? But also is being able to learn from your past mistakes as well. So like younger strength coaches have to make sure they take into account that part of it. So you're going to take your lumps. That's okay that you're taking your lumps, but in the interim of you taking those lumps, just continue to try to strive to be the best you can be day in and day out. Like some days you're gonna get 5% better, some days you're gonna get 0.05%
mm
better. As long as you're still taking those steps forward, like that's what your goal should be.
100%. I also think there's something to be said about like treating everyone like the CEO. Like my mom and dad grew up as porters, were like cleaners, And anytime I go somewhere, like I treat everyone the exact same because it's like it's exactly what you said. Like you don't know where wisdom's going to come from. I am fortunate in life now that I get to travel quite a bit with work and what I do. So like my best conversations have been with taxi drivers. Like it's weird because it's like just because they see so many people all the time, right? So they're always extrapolating things. So like when you sit down and properly have a talk with them, you get so much out of it.
You can, man, and you can make people's day by just respecting them.
Hmm.
And you never know what type of day someone's having. And so by getting in the car, like this person that I just met is not responsible for anything going on in my life. And so because that's the mindset that you should have, like you said, man, like everyone can add value to your life in some way, shape, or fashion. It could be something like you said that, like, I can learn what not to do in this situation, or this is what I want to do in this situation, and write it down and just be prepared and
Hmm.
ready to, when that opportunity presents itself. But man, like respecting everyone and treating everyone like I don't like I have a saying like leaving the locker room dirty and shit.
Hmm.
Like these people that come in and clean up after you, they have families that they want to get home to too. So imagine how much better their life is going to be that night if they can look in the locker room, maybe make sure that they mop a certain area, and then they can get home to their family 2 hours earlier versus having to clean up after your nasty ass and um, you know, take them an additional 2 hours. Or what if this is your family member in here cleaning this up? How would you feel if they had to clean up after your friends and teammates? Like it's not a cool feeling. And so like treat everyone with that same level of respect and you'll see like your life drastically improve.
100%. Kerry, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been a
Hey,
pleasure.
thank you so much for having me, man. I know we were playing a little Instagram message tag for a little
Yeah.
bit. But hey, man, like I guess one question I got for you, man. You said my name's come up on the podcast a few times, man. That's interesting. I'm gonna have to make sure I go back and listen to those episodes, man.
Yeah, it's so because I don't again have a system. Like I like to listen to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's been parts where like I could have someone like really into the like David Weck stuff, but then someone that's really into the Louis stuff. So like I like to think that I don't have like an ideal coach to bring on. Like I just like to speak to everyone. I
Mm-hmm.
think that makes interesting conversations. And I mean, at this point, this is 106th episode, so like that's a full PhD of speaking to people.
Yeah, man. I have my podcast is called the Unknown Strength Coaches. I haven't done an episode in a while because I've just been so busy, but it's definitely on my things to do list as far as getting guys on the back on the podcast. But a lot of those guys that were on the podcast, man, like they're like if they're smaller coaches at
Mhm.
FCS universities or things of that in the Division II schools that are doing an excellent job that didn't necessarily get that that pub or gets the opportunity to be known. But a lot of those coaches you know, do a lot of the best work because they don't have all the resources. And so, um, yeah, man, like I'm definitely, grateful to be on your podcast, man, and be able to, share my thoughts on a few things. But, overall, man, I hope I was able to help somebody or help people think of things on a much simpler scale to get major results.
100%. If you could let people know where they can find you and maybe reach out.
You can always reach me on my Instagram, Maximus the Trainer. Maximus, like Maximus Decimus Meridius. That is that Gladiator is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's associated with my fraternity name as well. So that, and then also you can get me on X. I still call it Twitter, whatever. But Coach K, as in kite, CSCS, like the certification. I'm on LinkedIn. Um, I'm on. I think that's about it. I don't really,
Perfect.
you don't really have a type, man. Like I thought that having one sport, like I was gonna have a little bit more time in the day Because at Alabama State, I had what maybe 6 or 7 at track
Mm.
and field, men's and women's, cross country, men's and women's. Hell, that's 6 sports right there. Cross country, men and women. Yeah, track and field, men and women. No, that's 4. I have volleyball. I had softball, and I had football, and I had women's football, women's flag football, and I had cheer. So I had 9 teams. So time was very short for me. I thought getting one sport was gonna change. Oh no, buddy.
I mean, I
uh,
worked. I did the football at UW, and that was like, and that was just an intern.
oh, oh yeah. Like,
And like,
yeah.
so you might appreciate this story. So I'm obviously in the UK. I got this opportunity to go across there, work at Division 1 football program, run McKeefrey. So I was like, I have 6 to 8 weeks to make sure that they remember my name. Like that was my mentality going in. And like, so every day I would be, so we had I'd wake up at 4 or 5, get to the facility by 6. I would get there an hour early, set up everything, like purge devices, whatever if anything was off, set that up. And then interns would come in at half 6, ready for 7 a.m. lift. Athletes got in quarter to 7, and then just like blast. But I would stay until like 4 or 5 every night, just making sure that every department I was hitting up. And it was like that that really changed the trajectory of my career, because now like I call Coach Mac and he answers.
Hey man, that's what it's about. Honestly, man, you have the right mindset, and that's if anybody's listening to that, intern wise, man, or just getting into the field, like that's just the mindset you got to have, man. Make sure they remember you, because if they don't, hey man, like you asking these people to put their name on you, and in the field of strength and conditioning, like people are like if they don't know you, there's a phone call away from knowing someone that knows you, and if there's not any good feedback, man, you're not gonna get a job, and that's
Mm,
just the reality of it.
100%. And yeah, so I've always stuck by that motto. It's like, let's fucking do everything. Let's squeeze everything out.
Absolutely, man. So, hey, you did the right thing. I hope y'all listen to that, because that's definitely the answer that you need to be in order to be successful in this field.
Perfect. Appreciate you so much.